At 4:03 a.m., my wife texted me like the lie was still hers to manage. I answered like I was talking to the man she'd been sleeping beside, just not in our bed. Rain tapped the gutters like a steady accusation. The back corner still leaked because I hadn't gotten around to finishing that run. Too many jobs, too many promises, not enough hours. The ceiling above me was a dark slab. Sarah was at a conference. That's what she called it. That's what I repeated like it made sense. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Sarah, something came up at the conference. Don't wait up. We'll explain everything tomorrow. I read it twice, 3 times. We'll, not I'll, not sorry, not even a name. Just that lazy, confident plural like she'd already rehearsed saying it out loud. My thumb hovered. Could have waited. I could have played dumb for one more night. I could have stayed in bed and let the lie keep its shape. Instead, my hands moved like they'd been waiting for permission. Tell him to stop using my credit card. And don't bother coming home. Pack your story somewhere else. I hit send. The screen went still. Then my stomach dropped so hard it felt physical. Because I wasn't sending that to some faceless conference. I was sending it to my wife. And she wasn't supposed to know that I knew. Not yet. The satisfaction, thin and sharp, flashed through me for half a second, like landing a punch in a dark room. Then it died. I sat up, swung my legs over the edge of the bed, and listened. The house made its usual noises. Fridge hum, rain, the old floorboard near the hallway that always complained. Nothing else. No footsteps, no movement. But the air had changed anyway, like somebody opened a freezer door. In the kitchen, I poured coffee I didn't want. The smell was familiar. The taste wasn't. Came out like dread, bitter, wrong. I checked the window over the sink without meaning to. Across the street, the Jacobs curtains shifted just a hair, like a face pulling back from glass. Nosy town. Nosy neighbors. People who don't like drama, but never miss it. A thought settled in clean and simple. I'm going to need witnesses for what happens next. Not for shouting, not for threats, for the truth said out loud, in the open with daylight coming. I set my mug down hard enough to clink. My phone stayed in my hand, warm from my mistake. The lie wasn't hidden anymore. It was alerted, and it was on its way home. Sarah came in slow, shoulders tight, like she expected the walls to swing at her. Her blazer was wrinkled in the wrong places. Sleeves creased like it had been balled up on a chair. Makeup ran in thin gray lines down her cheeks. Not dramatic, just worn out. The kind of wreck you get when you've been awake all night trying to keep a story standing. She stopped when she saw me at the table. I didn't rise, didn't ask where she'd been, didn't give her a ramp. She opened her mouth anyway. Mike, don't, I said, calm, flat, like I was cutting power to a tool. Her eyes flicked to my phone. She knew. She knew the second my message hit her screen. The lie had shifted under her feet and she felt it. I can explain, she said, and the words sounded practiced, like she'd said them in a mirror. I reached under the table and set the second phone on the wood. Cheap case. Screen face down. It looked innocent sitting there, like a kid's toy, like it wasn't a whole life. Then I placed the receipts beside it. Hotel. Dinner. Gifts that weren't for me. Charges timed with nights she worked late. She stared at the pile like it might move if she didn't look straight at it. I found it yesterday, I said. In your work bag. Behind the folder you always keep on top so nobody touches it. Her throat worked. That isn't. I slid another item forward. Printed screenshots. Messages with a name I didn't recognize at first until I did. Jason. A string of jokes, plans, little private cruelties. And there it was, one line that landed like a nail. He's too dumb to notice. He's always tired. I watched her read it. I watched her face change when she realized I'd seen her with no mask on. Not the wife. Not the mother. Just the person who could write that about me and still come home for dinner. She tried to reach for the papers. I held my hand up, 2 inches off the table. Not aggressive. A stop sign. Don't touch anything, I said. Her voice went higher. Mike, please, you don't understand. I understand. I cut in. I'm not here for debate practice. Tears came fast now. Panic dressed up as an apology. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. You've been so distant and I leaned back in the chair, slow. Save the reasons. You can tell them to someone paid to listen. She blinked like the word paid stung. I stood, not rushed, not angry on the outside, just finished. Here's what happens, I said. You pack a bag. You leave this house tonight. Her mouth opened again, and I could see her searching for the right lever. Guilt, blame, pity, rage, anything that would move me. This isn't a threat, I added. It's a boundary. It's the first honest thing in this room. She stared at me, crying, shaking her head like saying no could unsend the last 6 months. I didn't move. Go, I said, and the word had teeth. Now, the first step creaked. Not the old wood settling. A real foot. Grace stood halfway down the stairs. Hair a mess, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder like she'd grabbed it in the dark. She squinted into the kitchen light, and her eyes went straight past me to her mother's face. Kids don't need receipts. They read the air. What's going on? She said. Her voice wasn't sleepy anymore. It was sharp, scared, and demanding. Sarah wiped at her cheeks too fast, like she could erase the scene. Honey, go back upstairs. It's what? Grace snapped, stepping down one more stair. Why are you crying? Why is Dad? She looked at me then. I didn't soften my face. I didn't look away, because I wasn't going to protect a lie that had already been living in my house. There's been an affair, I said. The words were clean. No drama. Just a fact placed on the table like a tool. Grace froze like she'd been slapped. Her eyes darted to Sarah, searching for the denial that would make it all untrue. Sarah shook her head, crying harder. Grace, listen. Is it true? Grace asked, but she wasn't looking at Sarah anymore. She was looking at the floor like it might drop out from under her. Sarah didn't answer fast enough. That was the answer. Grace's face shifted in stages. Shock, then anger, then something colder. Disbelief turned into disgust, like her brain was replaying moments and relabeling them. You were with someone else, she said, and it sounded like she was trying the sentence on to see if it fit reality. Sarah stepped forward. Baby, I'm sorry. I love you. This has nothing to do with you. Grace flinched back like her mother's words were dirty. Don't call me baby. Don't touch me. Sarah stopped, hands hovering in the air, helpless and offended at the same time, like a person who can't believe consequences are real. Grace looked at me again. How long? Could have lied. I could have guessed small. I could have offered comfort by shrinking it. Instead, I stayed honest. Long enough. Grace's jaw clenched. She blinked hard like she refused to cry in front of both of us. I'm going to Grandma's, she said. Not a question. A decision. Sarah lunged for control. It's the middle of the night. Grace turned on her. So was your conference. Silence hit the kitchen like a door slam. Grace went back up fast, steps heavy. A bedroom door shut upstairs, hard enough to shake the frame. I stood there with Sarah in the wreckage. The damage wasn't private anymore. It had witnesses now. Sunrise hadn't fully shown up, but the sky had started to fade from black to that washed-out gray that makes everything look guilty. Jessica's truck rolled into the driveway like she owned the place. She didn't knock softly. She knocked like a person who came to work. When I opened the door, she was already holding 2 coffees and a box of donuts like she'd planned in the morning. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Eyes awake. She looked past me into the house. She's here. No, I said. Not anymore. Jessica nodded once, like she'd checked off a box. Then she walked in. She didn't ask how I felt. Not because she didn't care, because she knew feelings were a trap right now. Anger can make you loud. Loudness makes you sloppy. Sloppy loses. I set the evidence on the table again. Second phone. Receipts. Screenshots. Dates circled on a legal pad I'd grabbed from the junk drawer. My handwriting harder than usual, like I was trying to press the truth into the paper. Jessica sat down, sipped her coffee, and started sorting like a foreman laying out tools. "This one's a hotel," she said, sliding a receipt to one side. "This is dinner. This is retail." Her finger tapped a line on a statement. "You see this? Cards used for gifts and gas across town. Marital funds. That matters." I watched her, and it hit me how different we were. I build things with wood and concrete. She built her life on patterns, who did what, when, and how it plays in a room full of strangers. She flipped a screenshot toward me. "And this, her calling you too dumb to notice. That's not confused wife language. That's contempt." I felt my jaw tighten. Jessica didn't react to it. She just kept going. "You want to win?" she asked. "Then you stop thinking like an offended husband and start thinking like a man protecting his house." I didn't answer because I knew she was right. She tore a clean sheet from the legal pad and wrote 3 headings without asking. "Counts. Documentation. Attorney." "First," she said, "you move money so she can't drain things out of spite. Not everything. Just enough to keep you safe and keep it clean. Second," she went on, "you document properly. Screenshots saved in multiple places. Dates, times, receipts scanned. No gaps." She looked up at me. "And third, today you call a divorce attorney. Not later. Not after you cool off. Today." I exhaled through my nose. The adrenaline was still in my blood, but it was burning out, leaving that hollow edge behind it. Jessica leaned back. "Anger feels powerful, Mike. Paperwork actually is." She slid her coffee across to me like a small anchor. "Drink. Then we make calls." For the first time since 4:03 a.m., the room didn't feel like it was spinning. Felt like a plan. Grace came down around mid-morning. Not in a rush. Not dragging her feet either. Different sweatshirts. Hair pulled back. Face washed clean like she'd made a choice in the mirror. She didn't look at the donuts. Didn't look at Jessica. She looked at me. "Can we talk?" she asked. Jessica stood up without being told. "I'll be outside," she said, already heading for the door like she understood boundaries better than most adults. When the door shut, Grace sat across from me and slid her phone onto the table. "I know you think I was asleep for months," she said. "I wasn't." I didn't speak. I just waited. Grace unlocked her phone and opened a folder. Not random. Organized. Dates. Notes. Screenshots. "You remember when Mom said she had late client dinners?" Grace asked. I nodded once. Grace tapped the screen. "Here. She told you that on a Tuesday." That same night, her location was at Hampton off Route 6 for 2 hours. My chest tightened, but I kept my face still. Grace scrolled. "And the nights she said her phone died?" "Didn't. She turned it off. I heard her in the laundry room once. She was whispering and laughing like she was 15. Her mouth twisted. Hurt, trying not to look hurt. I started paying attention when she stopped caring," Grace said. "Not about you. About us. She'd come home and go straight to the shower like she needed to rinse something off. She'd pick fights over nothing. Then act sweet the next day like she was buying back time." She slid another screenshot toward me. It was a bank alert. Small charge. Same merchant over and over. "Those little spending spikes?" she said. "They're not random. They line up with when she went out with coworkers." I stared at the timeline Grace had built, and my brain did that cold recalibration thing, like moving a beam and realizing the whole structure's been off level for a long time. "You did all this," I said. Grace's eyes stayed steady. "I didn't want to. I just kept catching it." She swallowed. "And I didn't tell you because I didn't know how. I thought maybe you already knew. Or maybe you'd be embarrassed." That word landed. Embarrassed. Like I was the one who should feel small. I leaned forward, hands flat on the table. "None of this is on you." Grace nodded, but I could tell she didn't fully believe it yet. Kids carry weight even when you tell them not to. She took a breath like she was bracing for the next part. "I'm not going with her," Grace said. I held my expression, but something in my chest unclenched anyway. She kept going, voice firmer. "If she leaves, I will stay here. With you. I'm done being lied to. I'm done pretending it's normal. Her eyes flashed, anger finally breaking through the hurt. She didn't just cheat on you, Grace said. She cheated on the whole house. I sat back, slow. The room felt quieter, but not empty, like something had solidified. Grace pulled her phone back and added, softer, I just want a home that's real. I nodded once. Then we build that. 3 days after she left, the house got too quiet. Not peaceful, quiet. Empty quiet. The kind that gives your head room to replay every smile you missed, every late meeting, every time you trusted her because trusting her was easier than being the kind of man who checks. I told myself I was handling it. I was making lists. I was saving evidence. I was eating, sleeping a little. Then my truck turned without asking me. Jason Grant lived 10 minutes outside town in a newer subdivision. Cookie-cutter houses, fresh mulch, porch lights that made everything look safe. Younger guy, same firm as Sarah. The kind of man who wears nice shoes and thinks that makes him untouchable. I rolled past once. Keep going. Came back. I didn't get out. I didn't do anything loud. I just parked down the street with my lights off and watched his place like it owed me something. A garage door lifted. Jason stepped out, phone to his ear, laughing at something. That laugh hit me like a thumb in a bruise. My hands tightened on the wheel. I flashed my headlights, 2 quick pops, then turned them off again. Not a threat. Not a message you can prove. Just enough to make a man's skin crawl. Enough to make him look up and wonder who else knows what he's been doing. Jason's laugh died. He stared down the street, trying to see through darkness. For a second, I could picture his stomach dropping the way mine had. I drove away before he could move. By the time I hit the main road, the rush was already fading. That's the problem with revenge. It doesn't last long, and it doesn't fix anything. It just feeds a part of you that doesn't care what it costs. My phone rang 5 minutes later. Sarah. Her voice was sharp and shaking at the same time. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't answer. Jason called me, she snapped. He said you were outside his house, that you were watching him. I gripped the wheel harder. Tell him he should get used to feeling uncomfortable. Mike, stop, she said, panic creeping in. Do you want to look unstable? Do you want to hand me custody on a silver platter? That word, custody, cut through the heat in my chest like cold water. I didn't apologize. I wasn't sorry I'd made him feel it. But I saw the fork in the road clear as daylight. Keep feeding the dangerous part of me, or drag this back onto legal ground where consequences stick. Daniel Price's office smelled like toner and old coffee. No warm decor, no fake plants, just files, framed certificates, and the kind of silence that tells you people come here when something's already broken. He didn't waste time shaking my hand like we were friends. He nodded once and said, "Sit." Jessica sat beside me with a folder thicker than it should have been for a marriage that still had a Christmas card on the fridge. Daniel flipped through the evidence like he'd seen this movie 100 times. Receipts, dates, screenshots, the second phone, bank statements with the same charges circling the same nights. "This is good," he said, not excited, just certain. "It's clean. It's chronological. It tells a story without you telling it." I felt something in my chest ease. Not relief. Alignment. Then he looked up and held my eyes. Now for the part where men blow it. I didn't blink. "Do you do anything stupid?" he asked. Jessica's head turned toward me, slow. I kept my voice level. I drove by his place. Daniel didn't react like it shocked him. He reacted like it annoyed him. "Did you contact him?" "No." "Did you threaten him?" "No." "Did you damage anything?" "No." He exhaled through his nose. "Don't go back." I didn't argue. I didn't explain how good it felt. I didn't give him the emotional version. He tapped the folder. "You want revenge? Fine. But revenge that costs you your house or your kid is the kind that makes you look like an idiot in court." He turned a page. "We're going fault-based. Adultery helps leverage in a lot of places, and the financial misuse is a second hook. If she's spending marital funds to support the affair, that matters. Judges don't love that." Jessica leaned in. "Temporary orders?" Daniel nodded. We file for temporary protections. Exclusive use of the home if possible, restrictions on draining accounts, and a clear parenting schedule. We keep it boring. Courts love boring things. He slid a yellow legal pad toward me and wrote in block letters. No scenes. No text wars. No surprises. Everything you say from today forward, he said. Assume it gets read out loud in a courtroom by a stranger who doesn't care about your pain. I stared at the words. It wasn't soft advice. It was a rule. Daniel closed the folder. You're allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to be reckless. Jessica's voice came in right after, like the echo I needed. No threats, Mike. No driveway conversations. No one last talk. You give her structure and you stick to it. Daniel stood. Meeting over. We file today, he said. And you go home and act like a man who's already winning. When I walked out of that office, the world didn't look better. But it looked clearer. And for the first time in days, I wasn't running in anger. I was running on procedure. Sarah started posting 2 days after Daniel filed. Not names. Not details. Just soft-focus misery. A difficult season. Protecting my peace. Some people don't know the whole story. That last one was for me. In a small town, vague posts aren't privacy. They're bait. They tell everyone, ask me what happened. And people do. My phone lit up with just checking in texts from folks who'd never checked in before. Calls from men I'd built decks for. Women Sarah used to have coffee with. Everybody circled the same question without asking it. Jessica read one of Sarah's posts over my shoulder and snorted. She's writing her own character witness. I didn't want a war online. I wanted this handled in court, where facts weigh more than feelings. But Sarah was already painting. If I stayed silent, I'd be the villain by default. So I wrote one post. Short. Boring. True. Sarah and I are separating because of infidelity and misuse of marital funds. I won't discuss it publicly beyond this. My focus is our daughter and moving forward with respect. No emojis. No pity. No begging. Within an hour, the town did what it always does. Pick teams like it was Friday night football. Sarah called me furious. Take it down. No, I said. You're humiliating me. You humiliated me for months. I said, calm as a nail. You don't get to curate the story now. She hung up. The fundraiser was that weekend. School gym, raffle baskets, silent auction. Kids running around with sugar in their blood and parents pretending they weren't watching each other. Grace walked in with me. She didn't cling. She just stayed close, shoulder to shoulder like we were a unit. Sarah showed up 20 minutes later, and she brought him, Jason Grant, in a blazer that fit too well, smiling like he belonged there. Like this was a normal relationship debut and not a demolition site. They made a slow lap through the gym, heads high, daring anyone to blink first. Then Sarah saw us. Grace didn't flinch, didn't look away, just held her face steady, hurt, but done. I didn't move toward them. I didn't glare. I didn't perform. I just stayed present. A father. A man in his own town, standing in the open with the truth already said. Sarah's smile tightened. Jason's eyes flicked around, finally reading the room. Because the thing about small towns is this. The truth isn't private. It's competitive. And that night, Sarah learned she wasn't the only one telling a story anymore. Karen Mitchell's office was glass and clean lines. Too bright, too modern, the kind of place where people talk about culture while they sharpen knives behind policy binders. Daniel Price sat beside me like a locked door, suit pressed, pen ready, no warmth. That's why I paid him. Karen didn't offer coffee. She didn't waste time either. Mr. Reynolds, she said, folding her hands on the desk. Thank you for coming in. We need to address allegations involving 2 employees, Sarah Reynolds and Jason Grant, along with documentation you've indicated you possess. Her tone stayed neutral, but her eyes were alert. HR isn't your friend. There's a risk department with a polite face. Daniel spoke first. We're here to provide relevant information. We're not here to speculate. Karen nodded like she respected that. Understood. I slid the folder across the desk. Not everything. Daniel controlled the flow. Dates, receipts, the second phone evidence, the bank statements showing spending patterns, screenshots that confirm timing and secrecy. The parts that told a story without me adding anger to it. Karen flipped through slowly. I watched her eyes stop on certain lines. Her jaw tightened once. She covered it fast. This includes company travel, she said, tapping a receipt. It includes company-branded conferences, Daniel replied, and repeated contact during work hours. Beyond that, we'll let you determine what's relevant to your internal policies. Karen's gaze lifted to me. I'm going to ask you a direct question, Mr. Reynolds. Did you obtain any of this unlawfully? No, I said. It was in my home, on devices in my house, on accounts with my name on them. Daniel added, and we advise our client not to discuss anything beyond those facts. Karen took a breath like she was deciding how to proceed. We will open a formal investigation. We will interview involved parties. And we will review company policy related to conflicts of interest, misuse of funds, and conduct. I nodded once. That was all I needed. Procedure, paper trail, consequences that didn't rely on me being loud. As we stood to leave, Karen said, one more thing. If this becomes public, I can't control that. Daniel didn't blink. We understand. Outside, the air felt colder, even though the sun was out. Winter sunlight doesn't warm anything. It just shows you what's there. 2 days later, it leaked anyway. Not the full story. Never is. First, it was whispers. Then it was concerned community posts. Then a small local site ran a headline about internal misconduct at the firm. People sent it to me like it was breaking news, like I hadn't been living inside it for months. Sarah called that night. Her name lit my screen, and for a second my hand wanted to hit accept. Old habit, old marriage, the muscle memory of fixing things. Then I pictured Grace's face on the stairs. The way she said, "So was your conference?" I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice sounded smaller than it used to. Not sorry. Scared. Mike, please. Just 5 minutes. I can explain what they're saying. I can. Delete. The next call came from Karen Mitchell. Mr. Reynolds, she said, voice clipped. The investigation has concluded. I stood in my kitchen while she spoke, staring at the spot on the counter where Sarah used to drop her keys. Both employees have been terminated, Karen continued. Violation of conduct policy, improper use of company resources, reputational harm. I let the words settle. Terminated. Not punished by my anger. Not saved by her tears. Just removed like a rotten board finally pulled from a frame. Karen added, you may be contacted for follow-up. If so, we'll go through counsel. Understood, I said. When the call ended, the house stayed quiet. There was no victory music. No sudden relief. Just a clean, hard fact. Choices have costs, and Sarah had finally gotten the invoice. My phone buzzed again. Sarah's number. Then again. I didn't block her. Not yet. Blocking looks emotional. Judges notice emotions. I just didn't answer. Grace came in from school a little later and looked at my face like she was reading the weather. What happened? She asked. I kept it simple. They fired her. They fired him too. Grace's shoulders dropped, and she sat at the table like her legs finally remembered they were tired. She didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She just stared at her hands. After a moment she said, so, what now? That was the real question. Not what happened to them. What happened to us. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. Steady, not desperate. Now, I said, we build something that doesn't depend on anyone lying. Grace nodded once, sharp and quiet. And in that moment, I understood the choice in front of me wasn't revenge versus forgiveness. It was revenge versus a future. I wasn't going to burn my own life down just to watch hers catch fire. I'd already done enough watching. Now I was going to rebuild.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.